So, wow, I know this is an unpopular opinion, but I didn't think that 50 Shades Darker was a very good movie. But everyone keeps hating on this movie, and it's not fair. So instead, I want to help it. I'm gonna fix it. So today, I'm gonna point out just like the really small, really tiny issues, some small places they can make changes to make it a much better movie. So here we go. Number one, the lead actor of the whole entire movie gives one of the worst performances imaginable and is impossible to relate to or even like in any way. I'm not talking about Anastasia, like she can clearly act, even though she's obviously trying much less for this movie. I mean, she didn't write this stupid thing. I'm talking about how Christian Grey is the worst that he could possibly be. This is already like a bizarre, creepy, super unlikable character. And then on top of that, apparently the casting agents were just like, yeah, he's got a six-pack. He's fine. Am I being unfair? Can this actor act in other things? I know he was in Once Upon a Time as a minor role who had to like look hot and then just die right away. Maybe he was really good as that. Something about his fake American accent makes him sound even more unnatural. Like he's trying to make his voice sound deeper or something. So I know this is a bold move in a sequel, but honestly, I think we just need to recast the role. We're gonna want someone who's a lot more lovable and charismatic. So I'm thinking Henry Cavill, the critically acclaimed actor from Batman v Superman. I think he could inject a lot more warmth and humor into this role. 2, Anastasia has no reason to love Christian. I don't think there's anyone on the planet that comes with as much baggage as Christian Grey. He has night terrors about his depressing childhood. He not only apparently pays private detectives to stalk his girlfriends, but he also has them stalk girls he's potentially thinking about dating. And then he keeps creepy blackmail folders on them forever. He expects Anastasia to be friendly with this creepy old woman who molested him when he was 15. He has crazy exes who want to kill you. He likes to beat up women who look like his dead mother because he's angry with her for dying in front of him. Also, I don't know if this is because of the rating constraints of the movie, but it kind of seems like he likes to have sex with women in his sex dungeon, and he likes to beat up women in his sex dungeon, and these two acts are totally divorced from each other. Call me crazy, but I think this actually makes it a lot creepier. Like, did any of you see the first movie? And it's like he spanks Anastasia or he beats her with a cane, and then he's like, okay, I'm done. Bye. Like, what? It reminds me of this classic Lifetime movie called Cyber Seduction that's about the dangers of internet pornography. There's like this young, impressionable teenager, and he gets addicted to internet porn, and it's like he fails all his classes, and I think he quits his sports team, and I'm pretty sure it ends with him like drowning in a swimming pool. Anyway, there's a scene where his concerned mom catches him. She walks in his doorway and she sees that he's looking at internet pornography. He's just kind of watching it like if I was his mom, I would be worried too. That's very creepy. Also, Christian clearly doesn't have a three-dimensional life outside of Anastasia. It's like his relationship with her is his hobby, and it's his only one. He just like devotes all of his time to his relationship with her and his BDSM obsession. And in rare moments where he is left to his own devices, he's either working on his nondescript billionaire job or doing something that Anastasia can still find attractive, like brooding over his piano or exercising his abs. So my solution is to just give Christian a slightly more substantial personality. And for this, I think he needs a real hobby, like a mundane, non-sexy one. I think we should make him really like trains, just cute little model trains that he paints himself. Here's the sex dungeon room. And right next door, that's the train room. There's shelves lining all the walls with all the different trains that he likes to display. And then, of course, in the center, there's a large table with like a little diorama and a working train that's going around it. Christian loves to assemble his little buildings and arrange his tiny little people in his tiny train town. Plus, since he's a billionaire, he could actually buy a real train. We're only 2 movies in, and he's already taken Anastasia on a romantic plane ride, boat ride, and helicopter ride. So, like, where's our romantic train ride? 3, everybody needs everything. It seems like every time Christian's kink comes up, they're like, I need this. Anastasia, I need this, but I need you more. I can't give you what you need, Christian. I think this would be a better film if Christian was just more honest about his needs. Like instead he would just be like, Anastasia, I want my BDSM life. I want it because I like it. I guess it sounds a little whinier when he says it that way, doesn't it? Like almost like he's being unreasonable. Number 4, Anastasia doesn't like when Christian buys her things. First, I think that's dumb. Christian's only appealing trait is that he's wealthy, which is pretty bad. But at least if Anastasia liked that about Christian, we would have a thing for her to like about Christian. This always bothered me about Twilight too. Like they established that Bella is very practical, doesn't like extravagant things. She's kind of a tomboy. And then they're together for years and Edward buys her this wedding ring and it's just like this big gaudy thing that's just covered with diamonds. Bella's like, oh my goodness, you know how I feel about lots of diamonds. Edward's like, I thought you'd like it. And it just makes him look like a huge idiot. Like this one thing that's been explicitly stated to him multiple times, he's just totally failed to retain. So like, I'm just saying, at least if we knew that Anastasia genuinely enjoyed the idea of dating a billionaire, we'd kind of, you know, understand her a little better. And we could have this kind of dark story where like, she's using him, but he's a bad person too, and who's really in the wrong, and it's these two nasty people who are gaming each other and each trying to manipulate as much as they can out of the other party. Anyway, we don't want to change a ton of the script. So I think to establish this idea that I have, we could just put Anastasia in like a floor-length mink coat, and she's got oversized sunglasses, and she's constantly holding one of those like fancy long cigarette holders. And she speaks in a mid-Atlantic accent. Number 5, the crazy lady that's following Anastasia around with a gun turns out to actually be a pretty weak threat. They reveal in the movie that one of Christian's past submissives is now crazy, which is a great endorsement for dating Christian. And she's following Anastasia around. Then later in the movie, we have a scene where Anastasia walks into Christian's apartment and she's startled by this blonde lady she's never seen before. This random lady is like, oh, hi, I'm Christian's housekeeper. You've been to his house a million times and you've never seen me before, but don't worry about it. I'm making dinner. Can I take your coat? I just really wanted this to be the crazy lady. She dyed her hair and changed her name and then got legitimately hired by Christian right under his nose. She's playing the long con. Instead, this crazy ex-submissive plot is actually pretty boring. We even have a masquerade party, and she's not there hiding under a mask. Instead, we have a different villain there, and I think at this point in the movie, he wasn't even a villain yet, and I'm gonna get to him in a second. Anyway, I think as our most prominent villain, this crazy ex needs like a way more elaborate scheme. I'd like to see her popping up everywhere in just increasingly intense disguises. She's just like the Count Olaf of the 50 Shades of Grey universe. And Christian always seems to buy it, but Anastasia's like, hey, wait a second. Number 6, everybody wants Anastasia dead. And I don't just mean the viewers. A lot of women really like Christian Grey. There's that woman who works for him, who's at his birthday party, and she's like flirting with him, and then she glares at Anastasia because she's jealous. She hates her so much. Then there's the lady who molested Christian when he was 15, who's still friends with him and is invited to his birthday party. And she hates Anastasia too, and she keeps like cornering her in bathrooms just to remind her that she's not enough for Christian. And then obviously there's the aforementioned crazy ex who stalks Bella for weeks, hides in her apartment, and eventually threatens her with a gun. So I would just say that the author hates all women because she's jealous and insecure and she views them all as romantic rivals. Because she does. But also, all the men in this universe are mentally unstable weirdos. We have Christian, and I already went over his baggage. Then we have Anna's boss, Jack Hyde, whose name is very subtle. Jack smiles, he's likable, he's kind to his employees, and then all of a sudden, he just turns violent and crazy, and he tries to sexually assault Anastasia, presumably just to make Christian look better by comparison. The most harmless man that crushes on Anastasia is Jose, and apparently he and Anastasia go way back, but the last time we saw Jose, he was pawing at Anastasia outside of a bar while she was drunk and resisting. So I guess in this movie, Jose decided he needs to repair their friendship. And the best way to go about that is to invite her to a gallery opening of his photography, where it turns out that all of the pictures are giant poster-sized photos of her face. They just look like terrible, creepy acting headshots. I can't fathom how they are in a gallery, other than that Anastasia is the main character, so her face is art. So we've got all these minor villains crowding the story, and I think what we need to fix it is just one really forceful personality to structure the plot around. I propose Bane. He's not as iconic as the Joker, but I think he's got a really strong presence and he can lend himself well to the universe of this story. So we can just establish Bane as the ringleader to all of these villains. Number 7. Who even is Jose? So Jose is Anna's friend who has a crush on her. When 50 Shades of Grey was still a Twilight fanfic, Jose was obviously Jacob Black, because he's the only character the author decided to make a minority. I guess that was the thing that stood out to her about Jacob. So everybody that's heard of Team Jacob knows that Jacob was one leg of a love triangle, and a whole lot of fans actually thought that he stood a chance with Bella. The author doesn't even pretend Jose stands a chance here. He was just in like one scene at the beginning of the movie where he's creepy and then he disappears forever. At the beginning of this movie, Anna goes to his exhibition and he's like, "Hey Anna, dinner's on me." And then Anna goes and gets dinner with Christian. Hey, what happened to Jose? Who cares? Then at the very end of the movie, it's Christian's birthday party, which is thrown by Christian's family at their house. The guests in attendance are Christian's friends and family. And Jose is also there. Who invited Jose? Did Christian's family invite Jose? You're telling me Christian's mom invited Anastasia's acquaintance from college, Jose? And then Christian announces to the party that Anastasia has agreed to marry him. Oh, spoilers, by the way. And there's a shot of Jose looking sad. Like, why'd you bring the poor guy here? Just to show him looking sad? Are they setting Jose up as another villain in the third movie? But even though Jose is creepy, I still feel bad for him. After all, it's not his fault. Like, all men are creepy in this universe. Poor Jose isn't even remotely in the running to be a love interest. He really needs something to justify his existence as a character, or make him more appealing in some way. So my suggestion is that at the birthday party, when Christian announces that he's going to marry Anastasia, Jose is so overcome with jealousy and grief that he transforms into a werewolf. This supernatural element would not only flesh out Jose's character, but would add some much needed excitement to the franchise. As in Underworld, we can see this age-old conflict between werewolves and BDSM-obsessed billionaires. And werewolves are pretty sexy, so this should make Anastasia's decision a little less clear-cut. Number 8. Anastasia is literally evil. Yeah, okay, I said it. Everyone's always like, Christian is abusive. And he is. But Anastasia is also really weird and mean to him. Their whole relationship is really weird and bad. Anna is like, Christian, I can't be into this BDSM thing you like. If you love me, you'll give it up for me. Wait, never mind, I'll try it. I like it. Wait. No, I don't. Shame on you. You disgust me. Wait, I changed my mind. Let's do it again. He sends mixed signals. She sends mixed signals. They get mad at each other, but then they cry because they need to be together. I swear it just feels like Anastasia is trying to keep him in this endless cycle of guilt. My favorite example of this is actually from the first movie. Anastasia's in this big fight with Christian about how she'll never be able to live his lifestyle. And he's like, no, it's fine. We'll make it work. Anastasia's like crying and she's like, I want you to hit me as hard as you can to show me how bad it can be. This is a ridiculously obvious trap. And also, why would Christian even want to do this, knowing that she's angry and judging him the whole time? Like, how is that still sexy to him? But Christian apparently doesn't pick up on this and he just furrows his brow like a big dumb Neanderthal and he's like, okay. Then he starts beating Anastasia with like a cane or a belt or something. She at no point tells him to stop. Then he's done, and it's like I talked about before. He's just kind of like, okay, I'm done now. That was great. Like, okay, I guess in some way that was gratifying for him. And then Anastasia just goes, that's terrible. You're terrible. Something's really wrong with you. Like, who are we supposed to relate to in this horrible story about two mean, stupid people tormenting each other? Neither one can make the other one happy. which we know because they keep telling us, but they're in love because they're in love. And that's it. They just are. So anyway, for my fix, I would refer back to Mink Coat Anastasia. I'd like to make her manipulation of Christian deliberate. Like I said, we don't want to change the script too much, so maybe we could just punctuate some of her existing dialogue with some evil cackling. Or maybe just a scene where she's smiling and painting her nails. Because whenever women in film paint their nails, it means they're being duplicitous. Number 9, Christian is going to buy Anastasia that house. There's this very natural scene where Anastasia and Christian are sailing on his yacht, and suddenly everything halts so Anastasia can go, "Oh my goodness, look at that big house. I love that house. It's beautiful and extravagant." And then that scene is over and there's just a montage of them driving the yacht together. So I'm not like psychic or anything, but I kind of think Christian is maybe gonna buy her that house in the third movie. You know, sometimes people remark on liking something and it doesn't mean that they expect you to buy it for them. Sometimes you can look at things, especially really big things that you usually only need one of, like a house, and just like it without really committing to wanting to own it. But no, he's gonna buy her that house. So if Christian buys Anastasia that house, he also better buy her every other thing she ever admires. He buys her that cute giraffe she saw on the Discovery Channel. He buys her the Space Needle, because she's like, "Oh, that's pretty." If she said she likes it, she wants to have it, Christian. It's practical. Number 10, there's no climax. I'm not even going to make a pun because I'm so serious about this problem. So let me tell you a fun story. Once upon a time when 50 Shades of Grey was still a Twilight fanfic called Master of the Universe by Snow Queen Ice Dragon, it only had one sequel, which was called Master of the Universe 2. It was very clever. This movie isn't Master of the Universe 2. It's the first half of Master of the Universe 2. The sequel to the fanfic was just ridiculously long, so when Snow Queen Ice Dragon went back to split them up into books, she just kind of like split them in half, and she's like, "That's fine." So what I'm saying is this story doesn't have an ending because it's the movie version of the first half of the sequel of an erotic Twilight fanfiction. That should have really just been the tagline. Anyway, earlier I talked about that plot line where Anna's getting stalked by one of Christian's exes, and this isn't saying a lot, but I'm gonna go ahead and label that the strongest plot thread in the movie. They spend the longest time setting it up, at least. Actually, at the beginning of the movie, you have a couple scenes where Anastasia's like doing other mundane stuff, and if you look in the background, you can see this creepy girl is behind her with her creepy stare. I actually thought it was really well done. It creeped me out. Anyway, later in the movie, she sneaks into Bella's apartment and confronts her. I just realized I just said Bella. I can't believe I haven't done that already, honestly. So later in the story, she breaks into Anna's apartment and she confronts her and she tries to shoot her. Christian barges in and stops her, and you're like, oh, it's the climactic moment of the movie. It's the thing they've been building up. But Christian's like, "Leave, Anastasia, I'll handle this." So she does leave, and he just handles it off screen, like she wanders the streets and is sad, and then later Christian's like, "Oh, we sent her to the psych ward." So we don't see this plot resolved because Anna's not there for it. So yeah, that's wrapped up, and then the movie just keeps going. Stuff keeps happening. Christian proposes to Anastasia. There's a helicopter crash. There's a birthday party. Then the movie ended, and I have never been so surprised by a movie ending in my life because until it happened, I had had no concept of where I was in the movie. It just meandered around at this weird pace, and then it's the ending scene, and I'm like, oh, it's the ending scene. It's ending. Okay, so how am I gonna fix this problem? Like, okay, here's the script, it's in front of me. And they're all like, hey, any feedback about plot progression? And like, I guess my general feedback is just that it needs a story. I'm just gonna, just in big letters across the script, needs story. So that ought to fix it. I guess those were all my little suggestions for 50 Shades Darker. You know, just a couple things. But hey, I think it's almost there. So I know nobody liked it, but this movie made a lot of money, right? Because like, I have to admit, I'm super excited for the third movie. Only gonna get crazier. I wish all fanfics could be movies. Okay, the best scene in the whole movie is Anastasia gets this job at a publishing company and she's like in this board meeting. And all these stuffy old men are like, there are too many books, we're gonna publish less books and it's just gonna be famous authors. And Anastasia's like, I disagree. We need to give new authors a chance. I found this online author with billions of hits. And it was literally just the author on her soapbox. Like her just patting herself on the back. Like, everybody thought I was a talentless hack because I wrote Twilight erotic fan fiction, but look at me now.